Ah yes, Digimon, the show so many of us remember so fondly from our childhoods.
The fantasy adventure that taught us if we just believe in ourselves, we can obliterate all evil. It was first released in Japan in March of 1999 and first aired in the US in August of that same year. A very convincing bootleg copy of the English dub circulated the internet for years. English-speaking fans finally got an official release last year in October of 2012.
Personally, I am psyched to finally have my own copy of this awesome show on DVD. But the more I watch it, the more I start to notice things that I just didn't pick up on when I was a kid. But now that I'm a nerdy adult, studying what makes good storytelling seem a bit off.
Digimon Adventure gave us 8 main characters that were all developed well beyond the norm for a kids show. Their characters were so strongly defined that I rarely see deviations in the way people interpret them. In the sequel season, Digimon 02, the cast was downsized from 8 to 6, 2 of which were recurring leads that had already been established in Adventure. So really there were only 4 new characters that needed to be developed. You'd think a smaller cast would have made devoting more time to each character easier to do. But on the contrary, 02 had some of the flattest characters in the show's history. The notable exception is Ken, the 6th ranger who got more development than the other 5 leads combined, the tragic villain-turned-hero. His deep emotional character arc saved 02. But I honestly can't be too mad about what they did with Davis either. Sure, when I was younger I found him pretty grating, but I like him more and more with every rewatch. He was just always unabashedly himself, this brave, dumb kid who never gave up and was actually very compassionate. He may not have changed or developed, but he had a clear character, and it was a good one. Brave and a fierce friend, making him perfect to bear the crests of courage and friendship. No, I'm here today to harp on Yoli and Cody, the 2 most underdeveloped characters in the season and possibly the most sexist. Yoli was just the girl and Cody was just the little one. She was bland and he was boring. But a creative or executive decision was made about them that has always confused me. The kids in 02 all inherited the crests of the kids from Adventure, these magical artifacts that turned virtuous traits into superpowers. Yoli inherited the crests of sincerity and love because she always spoke her mind and was a kind, caring person. And Cody inherited the crests of reliability and knowledge because he was steadfast and dependable and a curious truth seeker. Maybe this is just me, but I've always felt like the crests of knowledge and love should have been switched for these 2. Take Yoli. She was easily the least developed character of 02, but her biggest defining characteristic was always speaking her mind and being unapologetically herself, sometimes to the point of rudeness. Just like Mimi, so the crest of sincerity was a perfect fit for her. But her big passion was technology. She became attached to Mimi very quickly and even monologued about how she wished Mimi could have been her sister. But her hero was Izzy. In fact, after Mimi, she spent more time with Izzy than any of the other kids, planning and strategizing and talking tech stuff.
Where did everyone disappear to, Izzy?
I told you already, Yoli. They went home.
I'm not letting you off the hook that easy. I know you're hiding something from me, Izzy. Now, what is the digital world, and what exactly are Digimon?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Then what do you call this?
Where'd you get that?
The few times she teamed up with Sora, the previous bearer of the Crest of Love, they ended up doing generic girl things she could just as easily have done with Mimi. On the Mimi end of her personality, the most she ever offered to the team was blunt honesty. Her first instinct to danger was always to scream and run away, but if you put a computer in front of her, suddenly she was in her element. In a hopeless battle with Arukenimon, she used her computer savvy to turn the tide in the kids' favor, when brute force alone wasn't enough. And like Izzy, she didn't always stop and consider that something she wanted to say might be tactless. If it was true, why not say it? So she always had more in common with him than Sora, but nowhere is it more obvious that she should have gotten his crest and Cody should have gotten Sora's than in the way these 2 reacted to Ken. When Ken first defected back to the good side, the other kids understandably didn't trust him right away, and he didn't expect them to. One by one they all came around. Davis was the first, followed closely by TK and then by Yoli, of all people. Yoli had a huge crush on Ken in the real world, so when she found out he was the tyrant abusing the digital world, she was adamant about not forgiving him, so what changed her mind so quickly?
Thanks for helping us today. I can't wait for the day when you decide to join us, Ken. Yoli,
He started fighting the same enemies they were fighting, of course. Yeah, all Yoli needed was for him to help them out of a couple tough scrapes, and that she trusted him completely. This was a logical response to the situation. Ken was helping them in battle, so he must be on their side now. It was Cody who had the most irrational response to Ken's heel-face turn and stubbornly refused to accept him as one of them, becoming the last one to fully trust him.
I say forget about Ken. We never needed him before, and we don't need him now. We can do this on our own.
You're wrong.
Both of you knock it off. You're acting like a couple of 12-year-olds. Oh, you know what I mean.
Like I mentioned earlier, he really was steadfast and dependable. He believed what he did strongly and wasn't quick to change his mind. For such a young kid, he had a huge sense of responsibility, so the crest of reliability was perfect for him. But suggesting he was meant to bear the crest of knowledge is a hard story point to swallow, so much so that I still remember seeing this scene as a kid and just squirming at how awkward it is.
I try not to make up my mind until I have all the information, but this place is so new to me. I have so many unanswered questions. I'm afraid I don't know where to start first.
You seem like a curious kid who just wants to know all the facts. Sounds like someone I know.
What should I do?
Do just what I did. Learn to trust your instincts. And if there's a problem you can't solve, just come to me. And you and I'll solve it together.
I couldn't articulate why it made me so uncomfortable back then, but it's because this dialogue is so forced. Rather than try and build up these new kids, 02 had the kids from Adventure just drop by and define them for us. In all fairness, Sora doesn't compare Yoli to herself, she compares her to Mimi. And Yoli had already wailed as much as Mimi did before that, and she did go on to prove that she basically was a less sensitive version of the Strawberry Blonde. Nothing about Cody up to that point suggested he was a curious knowledge seeker, and nothing he would go on to do ever did either. In fact, he often refused to accept the facts to stick obstinately to what he thought was right. He lost his father at a young age, so everything he remembers about his dad he holds very dear to his heart.
I'm so stuffed. I only have one more tomato to eat.
You don't have to eat every bite, Cody.
You should never throw away any food unless it smells bad. My father used to say that before he passed away.
Oh, I see.
That void of a father figure has sort of been filled by his grandfather, but the elderly man is very strict and traditional, and Cody takes everything he says to heart as well, maybe in the hopes that it will help him emulate his father, a great man who died a hero. But in the episode 20,000 Digileagues Under the Sea, the Digidestined get trapped in an underwater oil rig, and Cody is sent to go fetch Joe because Joe is the only one who has a water-based Digimon for a partner. The problem is that Joe is in the middle of his MCATs or something, and Cody can only get him out of the test if he makes up a fake emergency. He's torn up about having to lie because, as luck would have it, he ran into his mom and grandfather on the way to get Joe, and while trying to come up with a reason for his panic, his grandfather excused him from speaking because, as he put it, it would be better for Cody to say nothing at all than to lie. Cody doesn't question that like knowledge-seeking Izzy would have. He immediately accepts it as hard and fast truth.
My grandfather said the worst thing you could do is tell a lie, and that's just what I did. I don't deserve the Digi-Egg of reliability. No, Yoli's not coming over. We have to stay after school for computer club, but since you made the brownies, I'll come home and pick them up first.
That's not logic, it's love, both for his grandfather and the link his grandfather provides to his late dad. Cody is defined by his convictions, is what I'm saying, and when he believes something, it's not going to be easy to convince him otherwise. That sounds suspiciously like some other character who stubbornly refused to believe what everyone around her was saying when she wanted to stick to her irrational guns. So to make a long story short, Cody always had much more in common with Sora than he ever did with Izzy, and vice versa for Yoli, to the point that I have to believe the only reason Yoli got the crest she did was because she was the new girl, so she got the crest that the girls in the first season had, and Cody was a boy, so he got the boys' crests. So does this make 02 sexist? Well, yeah, but kind of in a weird way. It's sort of saying that certain crests only make sense for certain genders, and that isn't fair to girls or boys. But honestly, I'm not even sure the creators intended for it to say that. Yes, it would have made a lot more sense if Cody had gotten the crest of love and Yoli had gotten the crest of knowledge. But Zero Two on the whole doesn't make much sense. It's full of plot holes and subplots and easy outs and rewrites from beginning to end. It's still a fun follow-up to Adventure that gave us some nice characters and interesting world building. Yoli and Cody may not have been developed, but Ken was. Davis didn't need to be, and we already knew and loved TK and Kari from Season 1. Zero Two wasn't bad, it was just okay. And if this is the worst the franchise ever had to offer, I can't really complain. But that crest thing still bothers me. I mean, seriously, it would have made so much more sense if they had just been given different crests. I don't know why. Digimon, Digital Monsters, Digimon, don't have champions. Digimon, Digital Monsters, Digimon, don't have champions. Change into digital champions to save the digital world.
What are you guys talking about? Can I talk with you? Huh?